Peace and love, beautiful people. This is your sister Raziki Zafira, and welcome to Birth Chart Basics. The purpose of this video is for you to understand what in the heck you are looking at, okay? In this lesson, we are not trying to interpret. We are not trying to understand transits. We're not trying to make predictions. We are simply here to understand what am I looking at, okay? When you start to understand what you're looking at, navigating through the chart and future lessons will be way easier, all right? So let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and just turn off my camera so you can focus on the chart. So if you have a chart for me, you will have all of these pages included, okay? This page here is pretty much just the cover page. I just wanted something fancy looking. Don't worry about that. Okay, this page begins the main focus, all right? This chart is your main birth chart, and this format is called the South Indian chart. In your cheat sheet, you have information on both North Indian charts and South Indian charts. Now, I personally use for my work North Indian charts, but for beginners, I have found that using the South Indian chart is much easier, okay? So again, for the purpose of these series, especially for those of you all who are beginners, we will be referencing the South Indian chart, all right? So I just want to go through the elements that are included in your chart package, and then you will kind of get a bigger picture of how to move forward in future lessons, okay? So again, starting here is the main birth chart. This chart is, again, we're always going to reference this chart, okay? Of course, these different boxes, if you will, represent the constellations. They represent the houses as well. Now, in your cheat sheet, you should already know which constellation each of these boxes represent, okay? If you have not printed out your chart, please do so. Not saying you got to print out the whole package at first, but at least this page here, you definitely want to print this out, okay? And we'll get into a little more detail in this lesson. But for now, I just want you to understand everything that you received, okay? So again, this chart is your main birth chart. This chart is your moon chart, okay? The moon chart is used for two reasons. Number one, when we interpret a chart, we're either going to look at it from your rising sign or your ascendant sign, which is represented by AS here. So everybody in your chart right now, locate the AS. That is your ascendant sign. That is your rising sign. Okay, I'll just leave that there for now. The moon chart is used to read you from another perspective, which we'll get into later. You can use this if you have your birth time still, which is fine. Mainly for those of you who do not know your birth time, you will utilize your moon chart. Okay? Let me say this before I forget. Now, your ascendant sign will always be your first house. Your ascendant sign will always be your first house. For those of you who do not know the time of your birth, so therefore we cannot calculate your correct ascendant sign, you will use your moon sign as your first house, okay? So let's just say we forget this moon chart here. We're only looking at this chart. Let's just say this person really doesn't know their birth time and their ascendant sign is, let me rephrase. Let's just say a person doesn't know their birth time and the ascendant sign is just placed here, right? They're not going to pay attention to this as the first house. They're going to use their moon sign as the first house. So for those of you who do not have your time of birth, you're going to underline, star, highlight the house that has the moon in it. That will be your first house. Okay, that's specifically for people who do not know the time of birth. Now, I will say, for those of you who do know your time of birth, you can still read your chart from the moon sign because it's giving you another perspective, which we will go over later. Okay, so again, your main birth chart is here. Your moon chart is here. Now, your Navamsha chart, this chart goes in a category called divisional charts. All right. And once we get to that page, we'll understand what this means. Here is kind of like a key, right, to understanding, certain elements of the chart. So clearly self-explanatory. This segment will show all the planets that are in your chart, right? R and C stands for one of the conditions that your planet is in. So for instance, no RCs on any of these planets, but until we get to Jupiter, Venus, and Saturn. So R means retrograde, meaning, we all should know what retrograde is. Some people think it's spinning backwards, like going backwards, but really it's a planet spinning on its axis at a standstill motion while the precession of the equinox and all that continues to move forward. And then C stands for combust. All right. And again, we will get into these conditions of the planets in a later lesson. And the conditions are important because it helps us understand how the planets are functioning. Okay. This column clearly is the signs: Aquarius, Cancer, Pisces, Virgo, so forth and so on. This is the degree of each planet. So this column tells you the degrees that each of these planets were at your time of birth. The degree also plays a part in the condition of the planet. Okay. Speed, I really don't get into that. The nakshatra or lunar mansion is another important aspect of the birth chart. So, as we all know, as we all have been trained, as we all have been taught, the sun has 12 different constellations. The moon also has constellations called nakshatras or lunar mansions, and there are 28/29 of them. 28. I normally use 28. Another thing that I would like to pause on and kind of address, a lot of people ask about Ophiuchus. Also, you're probably wondering why Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune is not listed here. So according to sidereal Vedic astrology, and again in your cheat sheet package, you'll kind of see how long each of these planets stay in a constellation: Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. And Pluto isn't even really an actual physical planet, but the Western world incorporated it in there. And again, I incorporated in your chart because I understand a lot of you are coming from the Western perspective, but also because Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune is beyond Saturn, is beyond a certain boundary in space. Our ancient ancestors, a lot of the ancient rishis, or people back in the day, they really did not consider Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune as far as personal perspectives, or how should I say, personal impact. It was more so impact of the world of generations, right? Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto more so depicted world events instead of what's going on in your personal life because of how far away it is from Earth. I'll just put it like that. All right. But hey, if you choose to incorporate it for you, that's totally fine. I just normally teach from the perspective of the main planets that you see in these in this column. Okay. Lilith and Chiron, that'll be a total different lesson. Yeah. Okay, so again, last one, Ophiuchus. So a lot of people, again, are familiar with 13 sign astrology, so forth and so on. So the reason why I really don't even bother with Ophiuchus is because there is a nakshatra that's not listed here called Jyestha. Jyestha is pretty much the constellation of Ophiuchus. So when people are trying to understand how Ophiuchus fits in their chart, if any of their planets is in the degrees or in the nakshatra of Jyestha, that's how I apply it. All right. Now, padas are pretty much just different departments, if you will, of the nakshatras. So there are different, how can I say, categories or levels, if you will, to each of the lunar mansions. All right. So this is just kind of a deeper perspective into the lunar constellations. Now, RL stands for ruling lord. And what that means is that every sun constellation, every sun sign has a ruling planet. So Aquarius is ruled by Saturn in sidereal Vedic astrology. Cancer is ruled by Moon. Pisces is ruled by Jupiter. Virgo is ruled by Mercury, so forth and so on. All right. So again, the sun signs have ruling planets or ruling lords, which is this column here. So just like the sun sign has ruling planets or ruling lords, so do the lunar constellations. They also have ruling planets, aka ruling lords. So this is what NL stands for. Okay, nakshatra lord. All right. SLSS, don't worry about that. Okay, we won't get into that now. Status. Now, again, this is a computerized interpretation of the condition of your planets. Okay, now some of this has truth to it, but again, the wonderful thing about being human is that a lot of this stuff, when you learn how to navigate, when you learn how to add all of it together, you kind of come up with your own interpretation, right? So this also helps us understand the condition of the planet and how it's functioning. All right. Now, this next sheet is the divisional charts, right? So remember when I first talked about the Navamsha chart, that is also here in this divisional chart page. Now, divisional charts are deeper insights into the sun constellation. What do I mean by that? So let's just say, for instance, I wanted to take a deeper look into this person's 10th house. Okay. Now, I'll get into how I know this later. Well, actually, you should already have kind of an idea in your sneak peek sheet or your cheat sheet, I meant to say. So the 10th house for this person is Scorpio. Okay. But I want to take a deeper look into the 10th house because clearly there's no planet here, right? And that will definitely be another lesson too. So let me address this. So if I want to take a deeper look into my 10th house, I'm going to go to the corresponding divisional chart. Every single house, every single constellation in your main birth chart has a correlating divisional chart. All right. And the correlating divisional chart, I'm just going to give that to you right now. For your career house is the Dashamsha. Okay. I'll leave that there. All right. You could do your own research, but because this is birth chart basics, I just want you to get an understanding of what's included in your birth chart package, and I don't want you to get overwhelmed. Okay. So moving forward. Now, this is the Mahadasha and Antar Dasha. Now, the rest of the pages are just further breakdowns of this, but I just want to focus on this page for the purpose of you getting an understanding. So first off, what is Mahadasha? I understand this is a term you may not be familiar with. So from the time we're born to the time we transition, there are certain planetary energies that is taking precedence in our life, right? Life keeps going, everything else is happening, everything else is still activating in its own way. However, there's a particular energy that's kind of dominant, and whatever energy is kind of dominant will also show up in your life, because that means that there are certain areas in life that are calling for your attention more than others. So this is what the Mahadasha helps us see. Okay. So each Mahadasha, each planetary Mahadasha has its own distinct meaning and purpose and goals and lessons. And this is what this chart shows us. So, for example, if you just want to look at what Mahadasha you're in right now, you would just simply look at the corresponding date. So at the time that I'm recording this, this is May 2019. So I'm going to find May 2019 here. So it's not here, it's not here, it's not, oh, okay, it's going to be in this range. So I'm looking for May, this is January, this is up to January 2019. Okay, right here, right? So this is January to June of 2019. So right now, this person would be in Mars, K2 Mahadasha. Okay, so let's do a quick review. This is your main birth chart. All right, this is your moon chart, and again, you are using this as a secondary perspective. If you have your rising sign, you're using this as a first perspective if you do not know your rising sign. And the reason why you would not know your correct rising sign, again, is because you do not know your time of birth. Okay, this again is a part of the divisional chart department, so we'll keep that there. This is kind of your key to understand, okay, again, planets, is it retrograde or combust, signs, degrees, so forth and so on. These are your divisional charts. This is your Mahadasha. All right, so I want to talk about some components here in this chart. I want to kind of answer some questions that I feel is burning right now. So a lot of us have been trained to only go by our sun sign, but our sun sign is the outer personality. It is what we're projecting out to the world. It is what people see us as. It does not mean it is truly who you are. I'm going to say that again. The sun sign is what the world sees you as. It's what you're projecting. It does not mean who you really are. Now, the sun has more meanings, but I just want to address this because a lot of times when people get into sidereal astrology and they're like, wait, my sun sign changed, I'm not this sign. Well, it's not really who you are anyway. It's not speaking to the true essence of who you are. It is your moon sign that speaks to the true essence of who you are. Your moon sign is the inner you. It's your inner feelings. It is the foundation from which you process experiences. It is what motivates you in your decisions. Okay, your rising sign, which is very important, it has a lot to do with your life path and purpose. It has a lot to do with the qualities you're here to develop. It has a lot to do with through which house, through which characteristics, through which principles you are here to live life. Okay, so again, your ascendant sign is the first important sign. But if you don't know that, it's quite all right. Just use your moon sign, okay? And then your sun sign, again, is that outer personality, characteristics, what you're projecting, as well as how people see you. Now, another thing I want to address is knowing your houses, okay? Because in your cheat sheet, you also have, what does first house mean? What does second house mean? What does third house mean? And I want you to do your own research and expand on those definitions. All right, explore those definitions. So a lot of times when we get these new moon, full moon translations or quote unquote horoscopes, they are speaking from the perspective of the natural order of the zodiac. Okay, so let's do this. Now, for those of you who have not filled out the constellations, I'm going to ask that you do that because it's highly important that you know what it is that you're looking at. Okay, so let's do this real quick. All right. So this house will always be Aries, or this box, I should say. Okay. This box will always be Taurus. This box will always be Scorpio. This box will, or Scorpio, why did I do that? I was thinking of Scorpio. This will always be Gemini. This box will always be Cancer. This box will always be Leo. Ooh, Leo. This box will always be Virgo. This will always be Libra. This will always be Scorpio. This is Scorpio. Why was Scorpio on my mind? I don't know. This will always be Sagittarius. This will always be sorry, y'all. Okay, so this will always be Capricorn. This will always be Aquarius. This will always be Pisces. Ooh. All right, now that we have our constellations down, we're now going to explore the houses. All right. Now, again, the natural order of the zodiac says that Aries is the first house. Taurus is the second house. This will always say that the natural order of the zodiac will say Gemini is always the third, Cancer is always the fourth, so forth and so on. Leo fifth, Virgo sixth, Libra seventh, Scorpio eighth, Sag ninth, Capricorn 10th, Aquarius 11th house, Pisces 12th house. All right. So a lot of times when you see these perspectives for transits, you know, rather it be Jupiter transit, Saturn transit, Moon transit, it's always going to give you an interpretation by the characteristics of Aries and the characteristics of first house mentality, right? But your first house is not it will not always be, you know, the same as the natural order of the zodiac unless you're Aries rising. Okay, if you're Aries rising, you can go by the natural order of the zodiac. If you're not Aries rising, then you're going to go by your specific rising sign, your specific first house. And again, if your moon is in Aries, you could also read that from a first house perspective as well. Okay, so if your moon is in Aries or if your ascendant is in Aries, then that's going to be in alignment with the quote unquote natural order of the zodiac. It doesn't make anything better, doesn't make anything worse. It's just, you know, alignment. For those of you who are not Aries rising or Aries moon, then, you know, wherever the AS is for you is your first house. Okay. For this person, their first house is Aquarius. So this would be their first house. This would be their second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th. Okay. So go ahead and write in your chart those numbers: first house, second house, third house, fourth house, so forth and so on. So at this point, you have an understanding of what your first house is. So now at this point, if you want to start understanding, well, what is a part of my life path and purpose? You know, what house am I to work through in order to experience all these areas in life, to explore all these areas in life? Okay. If you want to take a deeper look into your moon sign, your interpersonal feelings, how you are processing emotions, so forth and so on. And of course, sun sign, right? So even though you were told you were one sun sign and in sidereal astrology it ended up being another, understand how you're projecting out to the universe, understand, you know, how people are perceiving you. Now, I will also stress this. You are every single thing in the zodiac, just in different areas in life. Okay. Now, the last thing I want to address is this other burning question. Well, Riziki, I have planets in some houses, but you know, some houses are also empty. Does that mean just like that area in life is just totally, you know, non-existent, or is going to be terrible. No, that's not what that means. So in another lesson, we will explore this deeply. But for those houses that do not have a planet in them, I want you to do the work and look at what ruling planet rules that constellation. So in this chart, Aries, Taurus, and Scorpio is empty. Aries, Taurus, and Scorpio have ruling planets. What house are those ruling planets in? Okay. Again, for the houses that are empty, for the constellations that are empty, I want you to find the planet that rules that particular house or sign and notate that. So in this box, you would say ruling planet in this house or this constellation. You know, so for this person, you would say, you know, the third house ruling planet, right? Because this is their first, this is their second, this is third. My third house ruling planet is in the what house? What house is this? So again, if this is a third, this is the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. So ruling planet in eighth house. Okay. Saying you will do the same thing for Taurus. So being that Taurus is the fourth house, fifth, sixth, because Taurus is ruled by what? Venus. Ruling planet of my fourth house is in sixth. And do the same thing for whatever other houses are empty. Okay? So again, at this point, you should have an understanding of what this chart is, which is your main birth chart. You understand the constellations that each box represents. You understand the houses that each constellation is. You understand why and how, or not how, but why you would use your moon chart. Okay. You understand, like, as far as what perspective the moon chart is allowing you to read from or interpret. Okay. Here you understand that Navamsha chart is part of the divisional department. We have not got into all of those yet, so we will in another lesson. All right. You understand what this key is about. Again, this sheet here is about divisional charts, and again, your Mahadasha. Okay, so in future lessons, we will explore all of this. I just don't want you to get overwhelmed by trying to figure it out all at one time. So what you can do at this point is do some self-assessment. Okay, not even trying to interpret a chart, just doing some self-assessment. You know, understanding the principles of the first house. What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? Where are the opportunities for growth? Understanding the principles of the second house. Same questions. What are my strengths? What are my challenges? Where are my opportunities for growth? What have I been experiencing in this area in life? All right. Because doing this exercise will help us set goals, and setting goals is a very, very important part of manifestation. Okay. And again, the more we go along in the series and understanding how to be in tuned and be in alignment with the universal transitions, and, you know, understanding the divine functions that exist in the universe. So therefore you should understand the divine function in yourself. This is going to help put it all together. All right, fam. So I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Peace.